On the day when Xinyan's childhood sweetheart invited me to meet her, a fire happened in the building. When my legs were pressed under the pillar, the flames burned my skin and flesh. Lin Xiao and I were trapped in the room by the fire, and my fiancé Xinyan, after receiving my call, was on his way. The fire was getting bigger and bigger, and my heart gradually sank, until Lin Xiao's voice and Xinyan's footsteps sounded at the same time. Yan, you come to save me, it hurts. I just sprained my foot. Xinyan didn't hesitate when he picked her up, but I still heard him shout in my direction. Yao Yao, after all, I was the one who called for help. I only barely responded, and then I lost the strength to answer. I only heard Lin Xiao screaming, hurry up, it's too late.
Ah.
Yan, Song Yao Yao will run away by herself.
Ah.
Yan, hurry up, I don't want to die. Lin Xiao's voice was filled with anxious tears. I know Xinyan has never been able to refuse the little childhood sweetheart he once held in his heart. He even hid our wedding from her. Xinyan is smart enough to revive his company in just a few years, but at this moment, he didn't think about the hidden reason behind my silence after I responded. The leg that was broken by the shelf was in great pain. Xinyan didn't look back when he left. The thick smoke in the house filled my mouth and nose, burning me so that I couldn't even see his back clearly. In the pain of burning flesh, I heard the system sentence me to death first. Strategy failed. You have one last chance. The burning pain was still left on my skin, and I returned to the time when I just entered this world. The electronic voice of the system sounded again. Do you need to change the target of your strategy? I stood at the alley where I saved Xinyan in my previous life and refused firmly, no. Xinyan curled up in the rotten garbage, and the blood on his head dripped down. He didn't see me, and a faint groan came out of his mouth. Maybe changing the target will be better then. The voice of the system stopped abruptly as I stepped on Xinyan's fingers. I crushed him hard. Xinyan raised his head, and the blood on his face covered his eyes. He couldn't see my appearance clearly. I squatted down, stroked his face with my fingertips, and said in a voice softer than in my previous life, don't be afraid, I'm here to save you, Xinyan. In my previous life, I suffered for Xinyan. When I was in love, I had to endure that he was thinking about Xiao Qingmei in his heart, and even when he was dying, he had to abandon me. Change the target of your strategy? Impossible. He should also taste the pain I have tasted. When I was inexplicably teleported to this world, the system introduced me to my target, Xinyan, a poor second-generation rich man. After his family went bankrupt and was heavily in debt, his parents jumped off the building. Xinyan was left behind, being forced to death by debt collectors every day, and my identity was a friend of Xinyan's former circle who I knew since childhood but was not familiar with. When I first tried to capture him, the system said that I was a newcomer and gave me a set of strategies: treat him well regardless of the consequences, and influence him with all-embracing love. So in my previous life, I saved him, took him in, and helped him pay off his debts. Do my best to treat him well without asking for anything in return. After hiding him for 7 years, I waited for him to say, Yao Yao, let's be together. There was no love, only responsibility. The funny thing is that in the end, I was still abandoned by him and died tragically. In this life, the 18-year-old Xinyan opened his eyes from the bed and saw me sitting by the bed looking at him. Song Yao Yao. I met his eyes, burst into tears, and threw myself on him. When the doctor left, he said he had a wound on his stomach, and I bumped into him and pressed on his wound. Xinyan frowned, but I hugged him and cried regardless, crying about the thrill and difficulty of saving him. Although he was a little confused, he still thanked me seriously. Thank you. I let go of my hand holding him, sat by the bed and looked at him. Xinyan, thank you should be practical. An unfamiliar friend saving someone should have something to gain. He is now a person that everyone in the circle avoids. Xinyan didn't seem to expect me to say this. He was stunned for a moment and said embarrassedly, I will pay back the medical expenses, but now I don't lack money. I interrupted him. Xinyan's phone suddenly vibrated at this moment, and a note popped up on the broken screen. A Qiao. Oh, it was his childhood sweetheart Lin Qiao. When he picked up the phone, his voice softened a little. Qiao, I'm fine, all right. I sat by the bed, looked at his leg in plaster, and smiled with pursed lips. The person on the other end obviously didn't care much about his situation, and said, it's good that he's not dead, and hung up in a hurry. Xinyan smiled at me when he put down the phone, and his tone returned to distant politeness. I can write an IOU, and I will pay it back later. I looked at him leisurely and said the most rebellious sentence after rebirth. Be my boyfriend. The mechanical electronic sound of the system screamed in my head. He won't agree, I said. I can help you pay off your debts and provide you with funds to start a business. Don't you want to take revenge on those who made you bankrupt? Shen looked at me, and there was some physiological fog in his black and white eyes. His face was still covered with wounds, but his back was as straight as when his family was not in decline. No, thank you. When I walked out of the room, the system was still screaming. Are you just giving up? Don't you want to complete the mission and go home? I want to, of course I want to. Calm down and listen to me. It's better for us to change the target of the strategy. You see, no, I interrupted it. Shen has self-esteem, and he has a childhood sweetheart in his heart. He will definitely not agree at this moment. I was stupid in my previous life. I did everything for him, but never took credit in front of him. Let him think that there is really free dedication in this world, but he should know that everything in this world has a price. This is the first lesson I want to teach him after rebirth. Shen legs were not healed on the day he was discharged from the hospital, and he was in a wheelchair. I asked the driver to take him back to school. The car window was half down, and I stood at the door and waved, watching Shen leave. The system asked a question in my mind. You just let him go? Of course, I said, because he will be back soon. The system asked again, but I didn't answer again, because I am sure that Shen will come back to find me. In his previous life, I took care of everything for him, and his life was as comfortable as before he went bankrupt. Now that I am not protecting him, I want to see how long he can hold on. It has been 4 or 5 days since Shen returned to school. I counted the days and went to the classroom where he was taking classes. When Shen came to the lecture hall, he was alone. The wheelchair had to go up the steps, and it was inconvenient for him to go alone. I looked up to ask for help from the classmate closest to him, but the boy lowered his head first and searched in the desk. Shen opened his mouth and closed it again, looking around. And the people in the classroom pretended not to see it. I pulled down the brim of my baseball cap. I saw a girl sitting in front talking to someone next to her. So pitiful. If his family hadn't gone bankrupt, he wouldn't have been bullied like this. Do you want to help him? The girl shook her head like a rattle. I don't want to get into trouble either. Shen was a little at a loss below. It wasn't until the bell rang that the male teacher who came and asked him if he needed help. After class, I followed Shen to the cafeteria. In the crowded cafeteria, he was the only one sitting in a wheelchair. The crowded place smelled turbid. I bought a meal and sat down, watching Shen standing in the middle of the line, and his wheelchair was squeezed out of the line from time to time. Until the boy carrying the meal passed by, he was tripped by him, and most of the soup in his hand spilled out. Shen was stunned for a moment before speaking. Sorry. The boy who was hit seemed to suddenly get angry, and the rice plate tilted towards him. The greasy food and soup slid down Shen's cheek and stained his clean shirt. You don't have eyes, do you? The cafeteria suddenly became quiet, and countless eyes looked at them. Shen had a jade-carved face, but his expression was panic. He apologized again. Sorry, it's not convenient for me to sit in a wheelchair, but the other party was relentless. I sat at the table and slowly picked up the food with chopsticks to eat. The system said, good timing, host, you rush up and save the beauty. I didn't move, and slowly finished the food in front of me. The other party cursed Shen several times before walking away. Shen wanted to leave with his head full of food and eyes downcast, but the wheel was stuck by something. He couldn't deal with it, and in the public eye, he could only call Lin Xiao for help. I saw him dial the phone several times before it got through. The crowd was crowded. I quietly moved closer and heard him ask, Haqiao, can you come over, help me? The other side replied impatiently, no, then hung up. Shen was in the center of the crowd, but people avoided him. Forming a lonely circle, I put the lunch tray into the recycling bin, and then slowly called Shen. The call was connected after a long time. I stood outside the cafeteria and smiled and said, Shen. Have you eaten? He hummed softly. I asked him, are you still short of money? Has anyone come to bother you recently? Tell me, how have you been doing in school recently? Be careful when you go out. Don't be found by those debt collectors again. I ate eggplant boxes when I had dinner today. I remember you used to like it. Do you want me to come to school and bring you some? Shen didn't say anything, and I said a lot on this end alone. After that, there was a short silence. I suddenly said, you are unhappy, aren't you? Who bullied you? Are they here again? My series of questions went unanswered. In the end, I only heard Shen's trembling voice, Yao Yao. It was like an unspeakable show of weakness. Can you come to me now? Okay, I answered without hesitation. The sun at noon was so bright that it made people dizzy. I lowered my eyes and smiled. Shen was like a crane stuck in the mud, refusing to bow his head. In this life, I will break his pride. so that he will know that everything has a price. I sent Shinyan to my home. After the private doctor examined Shinyan, he told him to supplement his nutrition, only then can your legs get better quickly. I took the burn ointment from the doctor and applied it on Shinyan's forehead. Shinyan lowered his eyes and let me touch him obediently. After applying and putting it away, I sat by his bed without leaving, touching the hair on his cheek with my fingers. Shinyan subconsciously leaned back. Shinyan, would you like to reconsider my proposal? Before Shinyan could speak, I continued, you don't have to think too highly of me, just think of it as a deal. I'll buy you 3 years of being on call. After 3 years, we'll have nothing to do with each other. No one spoke. I approached him and continued to coax him, I'm just giving you a chance. You don't have to feel burdened. This is just a deal. After you pay off your debt, they won't bother you anymore. You can devote yourself to avenging your parents. Shinyan, I looked at him. Don't you want to? Hurry up and avenge your parents. Shinyan was silent for a long time. The last beam of light from the sunset floated on his face, showing a bit of loneliness for no reason. I waited quietly until the system advised me, host, let's not push people too hard. Shinyan suddenly said, okay. I paid off all his debts in front of Shinyan. The next day, when I got up early and pushed Shinyan to school, at the door of the classroom, I happened to bump into Lin Xiao. In fact, I didn't see her very often in my previous life. Shinyan hid his feelings very well. When I occasionally saw Lin Xiao, she was covered in luxury goods and was as arrogant as a princess. Now I saw her, I was shocked. She seemed to have been spoiled too well. From the age of 18 to 27, she never changed, always high and mighty. Lin Xiao was carrying the latest bag of D, and the diamond earrings on her ears were dazzling. She frowned when she passed me. Ignoring me, she said to Shinyan, are you okay? Shinyan looked up at me and shook his head. I ignored her and pushed Shinyan into the classroom. Countless people looked at us. But Lin Xiao suddenly pushed me away from behind. I'll do it. I held the handle and didn't move. My boyfriend. Don't worry about it. Lin Xiao was stunned for a moment, and her eyes turned back and forth between my face and Shinyan's. Shinyan lowered his eyes and avoided her gaze. She suddenly sneered, okay, Shinyan, you are really brave. Shinyan wanted to speak, but she walked away with her bag without looking back. Shinyan didn't chase. I caught a glimpse of him stroking the screen of his mobile phone with my peripheral vision. Lin Xiao's name was hanging above the dialog box. The system asked me, host, will he tell Lin Xiao about your agreement? I said firmly, no. In order to take care of Shinyan, I asked him to move to my place. I told the kitchen to make tonic soup every day to nourish him. That day, after dinner, the housekeeper pushed him to walk in the garden, and I went shopping alone. The couple bracelets on the counter sparkled. I picked and picked, not noticing someone standing next to me. Song Yao Yao. I looked up and happened to meet Lin Xiao's beautiful eyes. She smiled, as if she had never argued with me. I took a step back, and she came closer to me. Do you like Shinyan? Yes, he is good looking, and I liked him more before. But he never agreed. Do you know why? I asked the salesperson to pack the 2 bracelets and smiled at her. No need to show off to me. You don't like him now, do you? What are you afraid of, Lin Xiao? I took a step forward. Are you afraid that he will like me? Think too much. Lin Xiao shrugged nonchalantly. Just remind you, don't bet on the wrong treasure. Shinyan's parents are not good at business, and he may not be good either. Don't bother. Lin Xiao walked away with a breeze. The system complained in my head. I don't know if she can still laugh out loud when she sees the male lead become successful in the future. Of course she can, I said. Because she doesn't care. As long as she is willing to look back, Shinyan will always be behind her. It was in the last life, but this life, it may not be the case. Thanks to me, Shinyan's college life was very peaceful. His leg injury also healed quickly, and it was back to normal in less than 3 months. He was holding back a lot of energy in his heart. While busy with his studies, he was also trying to start a business. I knew he was anxious, but I didn't offer to fund his startup capital like in the last life. The system asked me, what are you going to do next? Slowly cultivate feelings. The turning point in my relationship with Shinyan happened in the 5th month of our relationship. It was his birthday that day, and for the first time ever, he went home early. I sat on the sofa in the living room reading a book, and occasionally flipped through my phone. I came back in the evening, holding his hand and excitedly saying, you came back so early today. Let's go to the private kitchen I booked for dinner. I booked it several months ago. Shinyan was stunned for a moment, and was pulled out of the house by me. The restaurant was located halfway up the mountain, and it was almost night when the car drove over. I picked up a lot of dishes for Shinyan. He ate absent-mindedly, occasionally looking at the phone on the table, but there was no movement. After dinner, I took him for a walk. The path behind the yard led directly to the top of the mountain, and I held his hand. The mountain road was a bit rugged, and I tripped over a stone. Shinyan quickly grabbed my waist and said, "I'll carry you." I shook my head and leaned over to kiss him. Shinyan almost jumped away as if he was frightened, and his ears were red. The top of the mountain was very quiet, so quiet that there was only the rustling sound of the wind blowing the leaves. The time on the phone jumped to 10 o'clock in the evening. Shinyan sat down on the bench, the phone in his pocket vibrated, and he quickly took it out, but only saw a spam message. I saw that he was instantly disappointed, and clicked on the dialog box on his phone, staying on the Lin Xiao column, but there was no movement. In half an hour, it would be time for Lin Xiao to go to bed. Shinyan didn't say anything, so I sat quietly on the side. I knew what he was waiting for. Time passed by minute by minute. When there were only 15 minutes left, he suddenly turned off the phone. "Yao Yao, are you cold?" He gave up. I shook my head. "Shinyan, don't wait." He was stunned. I said, "It's just a happy birthday." "I can say that too. I booked this private chef a long time in advance, thinking you would like it. I feel that you are very tired recently, and I also made an appointment with a nutritionist and a masseur for you." The scheduled fireworks suddenly rose into the sky, interrupting my next words. 6 Chinese characters appeared in the blooming fireworks. "Happy birthday, Shinyan." It was too hasty. "It feels a bit rustic." I frowned and turned my head to look at Shinyan. The fireworks were reflected in his eyes, making his eyebrows and eyes beautiful. "Shinyan." I shouted his name loudly. He turned his head to look at me, leaned closer, and his eyebrows and eyes were shining. A lot of haze was dissipated. I got close to his ear. "What is more terrible than not receiving a birthday blessing?" "Of course there is. For example, the grand birthday party he had in the past, and the blessings and gifts he never lacked. But now, it's only me," I said. "I will remember it, even if no one remembers. I will remember it." "Shinyan, happy birthday." Shinyan finally laughed. Amid the deafening sound of fireworks, my lips brushed his cheek. He looked at me, and in the fireworks, a small me was reflected. The next second, he kissed me. The system made a harsh mechanical sound in my head. Shinyan's lips touched and separated. I blushed first. The system said, "Awesome." After all, in my previous life, Shinyan never took the initiative to kiss me, and I took the initiative to kiss him. When we went down the mountain, Shinyan held my hand and never separated. After this night, our relationship progressed by leaps and bounds. Gradually, we became like a real couple. Shinyan's career also gradually got on the right track. 2 years passed in a flash. After seeing Shinyan making milk for me after finishing work, the system said, "I feel that you are progressing much faster this time than last time. If we continue like this for a few years, it should be possible, right?" I took a few sips of milk on the sofa. "Did you forget? It's because Lin Xiao didn't show up." The system hesitated. "It should be." "No way." I smiled. I calculated the time. It's almost time for Lin Xiao's grandmother to get sick. In her last life, she begged Shinyan and shed a few tears, which made Shinyan feel very distressed. She was willing to put down her face and beg me. I agreed to Shinyan's request, and then made a difficult request. "Let Shinyan not associate with Lin Xiao in the future." Shinyan's eyes fell on my face and were a little cold, but they returned to gentleness in an instant. He said, "Okay." He did it. He did not associate with her again. But he didn't ignore her. Later, he helped Lin Xiao deal with countless crises. He had never had any cross-border communication with Lin Xiao, and even the conversations on the phone were very few. But again and again, when she encountered difficulties, he silently helped her take care of everything. The system asked me what I would do this time. "Actually, I think maybe he will be different this time." "No difference." I lowered my eyes. "He will still come to me." The day Lin Xiao came to him, Shinyan did not go home at night. For the first time, I sent him a message and asked him where he went. He said that the company had something to do and overtime, so I went to bed early. So I turned off my phone and fell asleep. Shinyan came back in the morning. His eyebrows and eyes were tired, and there were obvious wrinkles on his shirt. I turned over in bed, and Shinyan took me into his arms and hugged me. Without saying a word, there was a strange and quiet atmosphere floating in the air. The system broke the silence. "Host, he won't really speak, right?" "Of course he will." Shinyan buried his head in my neck, his eyelashes still dripping with morning moisture. "Yao Yao." His voice was vague, like sticky frosting. "My friend's grandmother is sick." He wants a foreign doctor to do the surgery, the chance of success will be higher. But he can't find a way. I turned over in his arms and hugged him. Is he your best friend? Shen was stunned for a moment before saying, yes, I said, your best friend is mine, I'll help you find a way. Shen lowered his eyes and kissed my forehead. You've worked hard. I was a little amused and sat up. You know it, Shen. I'll agree to whatever you say. I didn't lie to him. People live for many things in their lives. But since I came to this world, I have set myself to come only for Shen. Shen closed his eyes and hugged me tighter. Yao Yao, thank you. I leaned against his chest to listen to his heartbeat, and asked the system in my heart, do you think he will tell me that friend is Lin Xiao? The system was silent for a moment. Probably not. No, he will, so I have to find out for myself before he tells me in person. The doctor was invited from abroad, and the cost was very high. Fortunately, the operation was successful. A week after the operation, Shen went to Grandma from time to time. I bought some fruit and followed him. The door of the ward was not closed tightly, and I stood at the door and looked inside. Shen peeled an apple for Grandma, and Grandma smiled and thanked her. Thanks to you, I hope Grandma can get better. Shen put the fruit knife aside and stood up to leave. I still have. Lin Xiao suddenly threw herself on him and hugged him, tears welling up in her eyelashes. Shen body stiffened for a moment, and he subconsciously reached out to push her. Lin Xiao held him tightly. Thanks to you, Grandma can get better. She cried so hard that Shen was a little helpless and patted her back. It's okay, Grandma will get better. Lin Xiao looked at him with tears in her eyes. I'll treat you to dinner tonight. No, when Shen left home this morning, he said he wanted to go out to eat with me. Lin Xiao's voice was soft. We haven't eaten together for a long time. I looked at Shen's expression and became hesitant. It took a long time before he spoke. Okay. Before he finished speaking, the door of the ward was suddenly opened by me. Shen, who was held by Lin Xiao, suddenly turned pale and broke free from her arms. Yao Yao, I put the fruit down and called Grandma with a smile. Shen said you recovered well. I have been busy and only had time to see you. Grandma looked at Shen with some doubts. Shen said, this is the friend who introduced the doctor to you. Friend, I sneered in my heart. I left not long after I stayed. When I went downstairs, I heard Shen chasing after me and calling me, Yao Yao, Yao Yao. I ignored him and walked forward. There were many people in the corridor. Shen tripped and bumped into someone else, attracting scolding all the way. I turned a deaf ear and walked forward. Shen finally took my hand and took me into his arms. I was wrong, Yao Yao. Don't be angry with me. I didn't mean to not tell you that it was Lin Xiao. You were afraid that I would be angry. You were afraid that I would not help you because of Lin Xiao. So you didn't tell me, and you distanced yourself from me in front of her grandmother. Shen, is my sincerity worthless? He was stunned for a moment, as if he didn't expect me to say this suddenly. I looked at him and suddenly burst into tears. Shen panicked and wiped my tears with his sleeve. I was wrong, Yao Yao, don't cry, it's all my fault. If you don't want me to associate with Lin Xiao in the future, I won't associate with her. I was indifferent. You know I will forgive you. Because I like you, you can do whatever you want. There will never be another idiot like me in the world who loses tens of millions for one person's 3 years. You know that the deal is an excuse. You know I like you, but you actually know everything. You think I'm stupid, too, right? Not stupid, not stupid. Shen hugged me, his voice trembling. Yao Yao is the smartest person in the world. It's my fault. It's all my fault. I will never associate with Lin Xiao again. In front of me, he deleted and blocked Lin Xiao's WeChat. I wiped my tears, struggled out of his arms, and still ignored him. Shen is very busy. I always know. His company was in its early stages, and he had too much work to do every day. I never intervened in any company affairs. And he had to do it all by himself. At that time, even visiting Lin Xiao's grandmother was only possible when passing by, but now he squeezes out several hours every day to coax me. Shen worked 2 shifts on business trips, and when he was abroad, he didn't get enough sleep and called me, Yao Yao. Do you want anything? I said, no. Then let me help you choose. There was no impatience in his tone, but he was eager to try. Last time I went on a business trip, I said I didn't have anything. And he bought all the things he liked, and the necklace could hang around my neck. I sighed, just buy one. The person on the other end obediently replied, okay. I thought about it, and then said, I'm not angry with you anymore. Shen took a breath. I'll book a flight tomorrow and come back to see you right away. I was amused by him. What about work? Not as important as you. I pursed my lips and smiled. When I hung up the phone, the moonlight fell at my feet. I remembered that I was sick in my previous life, and Shen Yan was going on a business trip abroad. I had a fever in bed, hugged the quilt and was listless. When Shen Yan left, he called me, Yao Yao, I'm going out, I answered, in fact, as careful as he is. He may not be able to hear the hoarseness in my voice. I didn't ask him to stay, I just played the role of a wife who was willing to compromise, just like the strategy given by the system, and didn't delay any of his work, love or not. It's actually quite obvious, the strategy given by the system is really stupid, the mechanical voice in my head complained dissatisfiedly. Other strategists do this, then I wish them success. My thoughts came back, and this time, the system's prompt came after a few seconds, host. I think this game should be stable. He deleted all the green plums, and he kept them in his previous life, not even close. I said, what's missing? The last decision in the previous life, but in this life? It doesn't matter who he chooses. I accompanied Shen Yan to the dinner, and he helped me choose the dress. When I arrived, several people looked at me with surprise in their eyes. Shen Yan was going to talk business with others, and I was wandering around the banquet hall with a glass of wine. There were few people on the second floor, and I stood on the balcony to look at the lake below. When we came in, the security guard reminded us that the lake was very deep and not to get too close. After waiting for a long time, the person I had an appointment with came. Lin Xiao's eyes were filled with fatigue that could not be hidden even with makeup. You want to show off to me? Shen Yan deleted me. Do you think you succeeded? I said. I don't think so. I used to think that if I fought for him, Shen Yan might love me, but later I found out that there were many girls who had this idea, because he has a good personality and is gentle. Later I found out that no matter how hard you fight, he only has one person in his heart, Lin Xiao. I actually envy you. No matter what you do, he will accompany you. I smiled at her. Can you bet with me one last time? His career is on the rise now, and it won't be long before he can turn things around. If you win, I will withdraw by myself and save your reputation. Lin Xiao looked at me coldly, as if she wanted to find out how much truth and falsehood there was in my words. Are you really willing to give up? I smiled. His heart is not with me, I can't keep him. She raised her eyebrows and agreed readily, because she knew, it must be her. A few minutes later, the sound of someone falling into the water spread throughout the hall. I floated and sank in the bottomless lake, choking on water. There were more and more people on the lakeside. I saw Shen Yan running and jumped into the water without hesitation. The water was very cold in the late autumn night. I choked several times and watched the figure swimming closer and closer to me stop halfway. He held up another slender figure and swam to the shore, just like that day at the fire scene. He hugged Lin Xiao to escape without looking back. There is another one, it's sinking. The late security guard jumped into the water, hugged my waist and brought me to the shore. Lin Xiao curled up in Shen Yan's arms with his coat on. The moment he got ashore, Shen Yan let go of his hand and strode towards me. Yao Yao, I don't know. The waiter put a blanket on me, and the beautiful dress he picked for me in the afternoon was already tangled with water plants. The water in the lungs and the thick smoke in the nasal cavity are equally suffocating. I coughed several times before looking up at him. He wanted to come up and hug me. His eyebrows and eyes were at a loss. His face was pale. It was too dark. I didn't see. You can't see me, but you can see Lin Xiao. I coughed a few times and looked at him, with no expression on my face. Shen Yan lowered his eyes, and Lin Xiao behind him was calling him, one voice softer than the other, but he didn't look back. Shen Yan grabbed my hand. My hand was very cold, and the heat came over at once. It was like a beam of fire burning from the fingertips. I didn't cry. I didn't question him. I just slowly pulled my hand out of my hand. Shen Yan refused to let go, so I broke it one by one. I said, I don't want you anymore, Shen Yan. I don't want you anymore. Shen Yan's ears kept echoing with Song Yaoyao's words, a very calm voice. There was no crying, no excitement, and no questioning. Shen Yan did not dare to look at her. She gathered the blanket around her and slowly stood up. Shen Yan followed her step by step. Song Yaoyao's driver came to pick her up home. Shen Yan drove behind them all the way to the villa. The housekeeper opened the door and saw her falling into the water, and said in a panic, Miss, come in quickly. I'll ask the kitchen to make you some hot brown sugar water. Where is Master Shen? Song Yaoyao did not speak and walked straight in. When the door was about to close, Shen Yan heard her say, he won't come. Shen Yan sent her text messages, but she didn't reply. She called her, but she didn't answer. Shen Yan has never been a person who doesn't know his limits. Like those relatives who hesitated and retreated when the family went bankrupt, and Lin Xiao, who suddenly became cold and didn't want to talk to him more. He understood. Lin Xiao occasionally asked him about his recent situation on WeChat to make sure he was not dead. And never said much. Shen knew that it was actually her parents' instructions. It was just a little kindness in a difficult situation, which was rare. Shen remembered her kindness and understood her, so he was no longer as close to her as before. The little throbbing in his youth was worn away by reality. Only Song Yaoyao was an exception. She was like a ball of fire, rising suddenly in the cold winter. It was so hot that it almost burned him. It made him think he was frozen. She was spoiled and willful. They didn't have much interaction in the past, but when they met again when he was down and out, she asked him to be her boyfriend as soon as she opened her mouth. It seemed like a deliberate teasing. Shen didn't want to, she didn't force it. Later, she was despised by everyone, and she was the only one who came for him. Later, when she mentioned it again, Shen thought, it was just a teasing. Anyway, it has come to this, he has nothing to lose. Unexpectedly, Song Yaoyao did not laugh at him, order him around, or ridicule him. She just really hoped that he would get better. When the housekeeper pushed him to take a walk in the small garden, talk to him about Song Yaoyao, he also knew about the inexplicable agreement, but he never neglected Shen. The young lady is a little willful, but she is a good child. She just doesn't understand. What don't you understand? I don't know how to get along with others. The master and his wife don't stay at home much, so the young lady's education is missing a link. She doesn't know how to get along with others, and she doesn't know what to do if she likes someone. Just be nice to people and satisfy all their wishes. It's hard to change a character that has been developed over the years. She will only turn back after hitting a wall once. The housekeeper sighed, his tone serious. Don't lie to her. If you don't like her, she will leave on her own. Shen didn't understand at that time. Later, he lied for the first time in a dilemma. It was only 2 weeks from the beginning to being exposed. Shen saw Song Yaoyao crying, and his heart was twisted into pieces. If she didn't like it, she would leave on her own. How could he not like it? Shen wanted to put her at the top of his heart. On one side was the former elder, and on the other side was the person at the top of his heart. Shen was afraid that she would hate Lin Xiao and refuse to agree. When facing grandma's question, he was afraid that he and her were not a good match, so he lied. We were friends. When can we tell everyone openly that they are a couple? How high do we have to stand to be considered a real match with her? Shen didn't know, he only knew to climb up desperately. He just wanted to be faster, but the more he wanted to be with her, the further he pushed her away. When he came to his senses, their relationship was already shaky. It didn't matter what he lost. After his parents jumped off the building, Shen kept guarding the morning hall for 3 days, thinking in vain. Then Song Yaoyao appeared. She became the exception again, whether it was clinging or having no dignity. Song Yaoyao was the only one he couldn't let go. I quickly flew abroad. After staying with my parents for half a year, I ran away to live somewhere else. The housekeeper would send me messages from time to time, asking me to take care of my health while abroad. Occasionally he would chat with me and ask me about my recent situation, and his tone seemed like a different person. The system said, after analysis, there is an 80% chance that the person on the other side is Shen. I said, I bet 100%. When will you go back? Don't you see how Shen pushes the plot? I said, no hurry, he will come to the door himself. Then I stayed there for several months, until I saw Shen's recent good news in the circle of friends. The account received a sum of money, not more, not less. Just the principal plus interest in the past few years. I told the system, it's almost there. The day Shen came was an ordinary morning. I was lying on the bed watching anime. And the system kept screaming in my head, where is the male lead? Where is Shen? Didn't you say he would come to you? It's been so long, where is he? This is the last chance. I scratched my arm, give him some time, it's been a long time. The system crashed. I was about to speak when someone knocked on the door. I put on my shawl and opened the door, and the wind blew snow foam into the house. The person at the door had snow on his hair, and half of his hair was white. Shen had fair skin and a gentle temperament, like a young man from an ancient family. The system screamed for the second time, he's coming. Shen lowered his eyes and looked at me. Yaoyao. I slammed the door shut. The system screamed for the third time, he came to apologize. What are you doing? The reunion is just around the corner, and we will be together soon. I said, I'm just a little unhappy. What's unhappy? I was burned to death in my previous life. And I got cold water in this life. I have to bear all the sins. and he didn't do anything. The system was silent for a while and chose to shut up. This winter is very cold, few people go out, and people on the street are wrapped tightly in 3 layers inside and outside. When I opened the window for ventilation, the wind blew on my face, which hurt. There was wind and snow in the corridor. I went out for a while and went downstairs to throw away the garbage. Shen stood in the corner and watched me, followed me downstairs and up again. His steps were a little slow. He wanted to talk to me, but I ignored him, so he stopped talking. When the door was closed, he stood outside the door without leaving, his face red. I woke up from my nap and felt refreshed. The system alarm sounded in my head. Host, the male protagonist's vital signs dropped sharply. I got dressed and went out, and saw Shen curled up in a corner. The snow on his hair turned into thin ice, and he was about to lose consciousness. I took out my mobile phone to call the emergency number, and as soon as I hung up, my hand was grabbed by someone. The cold air seemed to penetrate my body. I shuddered and tried to shake off Shenyan's hand, but he held it tightly. I followed the ambulance to the hospital. Shenyan lay on the bed, and his body gradually warmed up. The system said, "Stable, stable, this is stable." I ignored him, yawned, climbed onto Shenyan's bed, and pushed him aside. The system was anxious. Host, what if you really kill the hero later? He deserves it. When I woke up, I was imprisoned in someone's arms. As soon as I opened my eyes, I met Shenyan's dark eyes. He seemed a little happy, and the corners of his lips drooped before they rose. Yao Yao. He lowered his head and whispered in my ear, "Don't be angry with me, okay?" I looked at him, and my voice was calm. "Are you really not afraid of death? What if I didn't save you?" Shenyan shook his head, and the hand that was not infused wrapped around my waist. He lowered his head and pressed his forehead against my forehead. "No, Shenyan should have died long ago." Yao Yao. He buried his head in my neck, and his hot breath fell on my collarbone, and he bit it gently. The voice was a little crazy. "My life is yours. If you don't save me, I'll give it back to you." System, why do I feel that the hero is a little bit wrong? I met Shenyan's eyes. The dark circles under his eyes had not disappeared, as if he had suffered a serious illness, but I could vaguely see the gentle shadow of the past. I said, "Maybe." Then I punched Shenyan in the stomach. The strength in Shenyan's hand was slightly loosened, and I struggled out and fell to the ground. "I'm not angry with you, I just don't like you anymore," I said. "I have an appointment with a boy I like to watch a football game today, so I'm leaving first." Shenyan was stunned for a moment. I walked straight out. "Yao Yao." I didn't answer him, and he pulled out the infusion needle in his hand, without even wearing shoes, and came to pull me. The nurse at the door was stopped by me. He just pulled out the infusion needle himself. The cut on Shenyan's hand was still bleeding, and 2 nurses stopped him. I walked through the crowd lightly. "Yao Yao, Yao Yao, don't go." Shenyan shouted my name like crazy, but I didn't turn around. 26. The system asked me, "When did you make an appointment with someone to watch the game?" I lied to him. I only wanted to go home, so how could I have the mood to look for someone else? The system shut up. I played games in the hotel until I was exhausted. 2 days later, I went home and saw Shenyan at the door again. He learned his lesson and waited for me in the car. He came to meet me when he saw me coming home. I walked home and he followed me, like a wronged puppy, and didn't say a word. When I closed the door, his hand suddenly got caught in the crack of the door. I was quite strong. Shenyan's knuckles, which were originally distinct, suddenly became red and swollen. He said, "Yao Yao, talk to me, please, for a while, just for a while." I glanced at him and loosened my hand holding the door handle. Shenyan changed his shoes and sat on the sofa. I took out the medicine from the cabinet and threw it to him. He looked at me steadily. I laughed sarcastically. "Are you still waiting for me to rub it for you?" Shenyan lowered his eyes and twisted the medicine himself. The quiet atmosphere was broken by his words. Yesterday, how was it?" Shenyan asked with difficulty. I thought about it and frowned, rejected. I didn't expect him to have a girlfriend, and she's the captain of the school cheerleading team. I made up a story, and Shenyan listened with a distorted expression on his face. It seemed that he wanted to be happy, but was afraid that I would be sad, so he tried his best to suppress it. I asked him, "Are you happy?" Shenyan shook his head. "Yao Yao, you are angry with me. You can hit me or scold me. That day, it was too dark. I didn't see clearly that it was you, but it's my fault. You can blame me, whatever you want." I slapped him without saying a word. The corners of Shenyan's eyes turned red, and the cold white skin made the contrast even more striking. There is a kind of beauty of abuse. My hand turned red. Shenyan lowered his eyes and held my hand, rubbing it gently. He also asked me, "Does it hurt?" The system screamed again. "Host, don't you still want to go back? Of course, but before I go back, I have to ask for some interest from my previous life. I changed my mind. I let go of Shenyan's hand and hooked his chin to take a look. Shenyan was obedient. I said, I found that your profile is a bit similar to that boy, but he doesn't like to wear this kind of business style. I lowered my eyes and smiled. Do you still want to be with me, Shenyan? He answered without hesitation, yes. 27. The next day, Shenyan and I flew back together. The housekeeper almost cried when he saw me and said that I had lost weight again. I changed Shenyan's suit into a set of casual clothes. It looks a bit like a big man. I told him to put his things away, closed the door, and locked him out again. Shenyan and I started dating again. There was no agreement. He indulged me. I was not short of money, so he thought of ways to make me happy. Things that cannot be solved with money are difficult things. Shenyan's mind is how to make me happy every day besides company affairs. I like him to do things like that, boy. I said he loves playing basketball. Shenyan went to learn. I said he doesn't like eating watermelon. Shenyan never touched it again. I said he smelled like orange blossoms. And Shenyan sprayed perfume on himself every day despite the risk of allergies. As long as he did that, I would hug him and say, I love you the most. 28. 2 months after I came back, I ran into Lin Xiao in the mall. Her arrogance faded a lot, and she was more stable when she saw me. I greeted her. She looked at me, her eyes revealing some quiet meaning. You said you would quit on your own initiative. I quit. I laughed. Then Shenyan begged me to come back. Lin Xiao's chest rose and fell for a while, and her voice became no longer calm. I regret it. What do you regret? I regret that I shouldn't have agreed to your bed at that time. I regret that I shouldn't have let Shenyan contact you. I regret not doing it earlier, she said. Don't torture him, Song Yao Yao. I don't love him. And I know you don't love him either. Don't torture him, Song Yao Yao. I looked at her and smiled. Our eyes briefly met in the air. Lin Xiao doesn't love him. I always knew. She used him as a stepping stone, a cushion for falling, and a scepter to highlight her status. You are the least qualified person to say this. But I promise you, when I got home in the evening, Shenyan brought me a gift, a limited edition rabbit doll newly produced by a foreign toy factory. I hugged him and kissed him. And Shenyan lowered his head and kissed my forehead. Then I put on my apron and went to the kitchen to cook. I slipped behind him to watch him cut vegetables, and Shenyan said, the kitchen smells heavy with oil smoke. Yao Yao, you go out first. I didn't want to eat the dishes cooked by my aunt, so I asked Shenyan to learn. After learning, the kitchen became his territory. When I talked about it with my friends, they envied me and said that I had a good vision and found someone who was both capable and kind to me. I just smiled. Shenyan, I stood on tiptoe, hug him from behind. Tell you a secret. What? The system tried to stop me in my head. Host, why don't you stop talking? I'm afraid that we will become enemies after you tell me. I ignored him and leaned close to his ear. I don't have a boy I like. The knife for cutting vegetables fell into the sink. A bloody mark was cut on Shenyan's hand. He was stunned for a long time before turning around and hugging me in his arms. Yao Yao, you lied to me? He cried and laughed like a demon, and kissed my forehead. Yao Yao, Yao Yao, I responded again and again.
Yeah.
Shenyan carried me out of the kitchen. The cut on his hand was still bleeding, and he didn't seem to care at all. Really? No, he murmured, confirmed over and over again. I replied over and over again. He pressed me on the sofa. The kiss fell on my eyes. He shouted, Yao Yao. Yao Yao, are you lying again? You want to make me happy, and then tell me it's fake, so that I'm happy for nothing? You want to punish me? Whatever you want, don't joke about this. Yao Yao, Yao Yao, only this, don't lie to me. Warm tears fell on my neck. Shenyan buried his face and sighed, please, Yao Yao. I hugged his neck. I love you, Shenyan, I love you. Only this sentence, it is the biggest lie. Shenyan was stiff all over, and I pushed him, get up quickly. I'll bandage your wound. He got up and followed me to apply medicine in a daze until the bandage was wrapped. He suddenly stood up and went upstairs. His steps were a little staggering, and I heard the sound of something falling in the room. Very urgent. Shenyan came downstairs with a red velvet box. Without a pause, he half knelt beside me. Yao Yao, marry me. The diamond ring in the ring box reflected the bright light. I squinted and smiled. Are you too anxious? Shenyan looked up at me, and the corners of his eyes were red. He said, no hurry, I'm just afraid. Yao Yao, I'm afraid that you will say in the next second that you just lied to me. Just think of it as a lie to me. He sighed, it's better to lie for a longer time. I put my hand in front of him and shook it. Then help me put it on. Shenyan's movements were a little slow, a circle, but it took a long time. Finally put it on, I sighed. It's quite suitable, Shenyan said. I measure it every night. He hugged me and rested his head on my shoulder. I know you won't agree, but I'm still dreaming that you'll forget that person one day. Prepare in advance. It'll always be useful. I didn't say anything. Yao Yao, Shenyan sighed, like a dream. I love you. The system didn't speak for a few days. Shenyan was so fast that he announced the successful proposal that day, and the next day he started picking a date, wedding photos, hotels, invitations, honeymoon, one after another. In an orderly manner, my friends came to congratulate me, and couldn't help whispering to me, "You're a little too sudden." Why do I feel that Mr. Shen can't wait to set the wedding next week? I moved the tassel on the bag and replied. It's not sudden, I can't wait, the system suddenly said. I think it's a little too fast. How fast? I feel that maybe we can stay a little longer and confirm it again, but I can't wait. I want to go home. The system shut up. Shenyan was very busy. The company's work slowed down a bit. He was busy with the wedding every day, confirmed the process again and again to make sure it was foolproof. This wedding was much grander than the one in the previous life. While Shenyan was on the phone with the wedding company, I was holding the yogurt bowl he made and watching TV. The background noise was a bit loud, and he opened the door to the balcony. I asked the system, "Can we leave immediately as long as we get married? Can we leave on the wedding day?" After what procedure? The system took a long time to answer me. Probably. After exchanging rings? Really? Can I leave immediately after exchanging rings? I have to wait until your physical body dies? I thought about it. Then let the MC stab me directly. Will it be too bad? Then let the chandelier on the top fall down. Host, the methods you choose are so bloody. Dead people, how can it not be bloody? I complained. It shut up and whispered after a long time. Do you have to leave? Actually, you can choose to stay. Shenyan loves you very much now, and your family background is also very good. You will be successful in everything you do here. You don't have anyone particularly close to you over there, and life is far worse than here. Song Yao Yao. It called my name for the first time. Stay, isn't it good? I finished the bowl of yogurt in my hand, and Shenyan came in after a phone call, took my bowl and asked me if I was still hungry. I kissed his face. No, I want to lose weight so that I can wear a beautiful wedding dress. Shenyan's eyes sparkled. Yao Yao. It's not the wedding dress that's beautiful, you. I smiled and watched him carry the bowl into the kitchen. The figure disappeared. I answered, no way. 34. The wedding day was very lively. I didn't have to do anything the whole time. I got up, did my makeup, and waited for the show to start in the hotel. Shenyan couldn't see me, so he sent me a lot of messages. I yawned and replied to a few of them. When the show officially started, the lights in the whole venue fell on me alone. I listened to the MC reciting the words. His voice was sonorous. He told the love story between Shenyan and me in a lingering way. I didn't listen carefully, and could only catch a few words like salvation and only. The audience applauded loudly. The red carpet was so long that it made people dizzy. My father, who was far away abroad, didn't have time to come back, so I walked forward alone with my skirt lifted. Shenyan didn't follow the rules, and seeing that I was struggling to walk, he came over to help me lift my skirt. There was another round of booing from the audience. Under the complex and dazzling crystal lamp, Shenyan lowered his eyes to look at me, and only my shadow was reflected in his dark eyes. I saw it clearly. It was very beautiful. Shenyan's eyes didn't blink, as if he was afraid that I would disappear in the next second. The MC was still reciting the words, and I looked up at the sharp crystal lamp on the top. The system was speechless. The MC asked, "Are you willing to make him your husband and enter into a marriage contract with him, no matter sickness or health, no matter poverty or wealth, or any other reason? Love him, take care of him, respect him, accept him, and be loyal to him forever until the end of life?" I said, "I do." The MC asked Shenyan again, "Are you willing to make her your wife and enter into a marriage contract with her, no matter sickness or health, no matter poverty or wealth, or any other reason? Love her, take care of her, respect her, accept her, and be loyal to her forever until the end of life?" Shenyan looked at me. The dark circles under his eyes faded a lot, and the joy in the corners of his eyebrows and eyes was like the spring scenery that could not be hidden on the branches. His eyes traced every inch of my eyebrows and eyes. Then he answered with great care, "I do." I smiled at him. Shenyan also smiled, and took the ring from the flower girl and put it on me. There was no panic like last time. I took the ring and held his hand. Shenyan's hands were beautiful, and the redness and swelling from being pinched by the door last time had disappeared. Each knuckle was distinct, and I touched it twice more. I caught a glimpse of Shenyan's doting smile from the corner of his lips. I put the ring on him. Countdown. 5. The audience applauded. 4. The MC began to speak again. 3. Shenyan lowered his eyes to look at me. His eyebrows and eyes were shining. 2. I opened my mouth, and he leaned in to listen to me. 1.
Goodbye.
Shenyan staggered after being pushed, and the sharp crystal lamp pierced my body. The blood dyed the white gauze red. The scene was in chaos. Some people were screaming, some were crying. Shenyan rushed up and knelt beside me. Warm tears fell into my mouth. I heard him calling my name. Yao Yao, Yao Yao, look at me. Look at me. I couldn't hear it. 35. I entered a room full of white light. The system's prompt sounded. The strategy mission has been completed and is leaving. There is a buffer period before returning to reality. Please wait patiently. I lay on the ground and felt myself floating in the air again. After the system finished reading the words, it asked me, "Host, do you hate Shenyan?" No. It hesitated. I said, "Don't you believe it?" It stammered for a while before replying to me, a little cruel. I couldn't help laughing. In fact, I think I am kind enough. I remembered that day when Lin Xiao stood in front of me, her face restrained, and she faintly revealed some pity. She said, "Stop torturing him." Song Yao Yao, why do you feel sorry for him? I asked the system. The system made a little noise and didn't say anything for a long time. You picked the person. I was the one who sat on the bench and couldn't wait for him to come home. I was the one who worked hard and paved the way for him. I was the one who didn't receive a reply but saw him shopping with Lin Xiao. I was the one who endured the burning of my flesh and watched my fiancé save another woman. I was the one who couldn't go home. I was the one who died in the sea of fire. I was the one who almost drowned in the cold water. I was even the one who was pierced through the body by the chandelier at the wedding. Shenyan no longer suffered the physical pain of debt collection. Nor did he have to endure the cold eyes of others. He finished his studies safely and smoothly, and started a company smoothly, just because he couldn't get the love he wanted. Oh, that's really miserable, I sneered. The system didn't say anything else. The pure white space suddenly became quiet. The progress bar read to the end. The system suddenly said, "I'm sorry, I didn't say anything." Song Yao Yao, it said, "I wish you peace and success in the future." I said, "Of course." A dazzling white light flashed. The sky outside the house was bright, the sun shone through the window lattice, and the air was filled with the unique smell of cats. Migao slept with her belly open at the head of my bed, leaving 4 or 5 cat hairs on the pillow. She was still snoring softly. I buried my head in her belly and took a deep breath. Migao was woken up by me, and she crawled into my arms with sleepy eyes and found a comfortable position again. I lowered my head and kissed her cat head. The real touch made me feel at ease. I went home. End of the full text. Extra. Shenyan Chapter 1. After Song Yao Yao died, Shenyan was not sad. Time seemed to be rewound back to when he was 18 years old. He knelt in the morning hall, listening to the painful and suppressed sobs of someone beside him. He just stared blankly at Song Yao Yao's photo. The person in the photo had a little smile on his face, but it didn't reach his eyes. Just like the few seconds when the chandelier fell at the wedding, she smiled like this, seemed happy, seemed very distant. She smiled. She said to him very calmly,
"Goodbye."
2. Song's father and mother, who rushed back to China, stood behind him. Even the noble lady was so elegant when she shed tears. Song's mother's tears hung on her face, and she wiped them away gently with a handkerchief. But she couldn't wipe them away no matter what. When the couple left, they were cold and seemed unwilling to talk to him. The second before Song's father left, Shenyan did not miss his sinister eyes. The pain of losing a son must be vented through something. Shenyan knew that he would be the one to bear this anger. It was getting dark. Fine raindrops scraped on his face. Shenyan looked at the shadow of their car leaving, his face calm. If they really loved Song Yao Yao, they should have realized that she was no longer their daughter. 18-year-old Song Yao Yao died of a sudden high fever. When she was repeatedly tortured by the illness, she also cried and called her parents. She cried and asked her parents to return to China to see her. However, she was only comforted coldly. "Mom and Dad are busy and can't leave. We will come back when we are free in a while." Yao Yao, you are a sensible child. Don't be angry. You are an adult. So Song Yao Yao, who died in the hospital bed, did not wait for her parents. I heard from the housekeeper that the hospital was ready to declare clinical death at that time. Song Yao Yao suddenly got better again. She just didn't speak, and the whole person was like a dull piece of wood. A few days after being discharged from the hospital, Song Yaoyao went out alone. The housekeeper was supposed to accompany her that day, but she refused. That day, Song Yaoyao met Shen Yan. It was like the wooden shell was injected with soul again. The housekeeper almost wiped tears when he talked about it. I am really grateful to you for seeing that the young lady can cry and laugh again. Shen Yan pursed his lips at that time and just smiled. At that time, Song Yaoyao was abroad. He stayed up late every day for official business. He couldn't sleep because Song Yaoyao was not by his side. The subtle differences between him and the Song Yaoyao in his memory suddenly spread out in his mind bit by bit. In fact, they are very similar, just with slight differences, but it doesn't matter, Shen Yan thought meaninglessly. As long as the current Song Yaoyao is his Song Yaoyao, it's fine. 3. The day Song Yaoyao was buried, the weather was bad and it rained lightly. Shen Yan stood in front of the coffin, and the person lying inside had a calm face. As if he was asleep, Shen Yan's fingers moved. And his fingertips paused before touching her cheek. He didn't touch it, but just helped her tidy up the hair on her cheek. Yaoyao, he whispered softly, I know, you're still alive. She left so calmly, as if she had no regrets. So love, just another lie. But, Shen Yan lowered his eyes. Cold liquid dripped onto the coffin, 1 drop, 2 drops, it hurt like his internal organs were twisted into a ball. He would rather she lied for a little longer. Yaoyao, he sighed, like a dream, I love you. 4. Shen Yan fainted after Song Yaoyao was buried. He didn't eat, drink or sleep for several days, and he was extremely depressed. His body couldn't bear it. When he woke up, Lin Xiao was by the bed, looking at him quietly with her eyes down. Shen Yan opened his eyes, but didn't look at her at all. Lin Xiao said, the dead cannot be resurrected, you should also let it go as soon as possible. The person is gone, take care of yourself. She was silent for a short while, and then said, Song Yaoyao doesn't want you to be so decadent. No, she doesn't care. The room was quiet for a short moment. Lin Xiao suddenly said, I'm going to film in a few days. Director Shen Ziyan, do you need me to accompany you? No, Shen Yan interrupted her and said coldly, I want to be alone. Lin Xiao's face was a little embarrassed. She picked up her bag and got up to leave. Shen Yan watched her go without reminding her, Director Shen is a lunatic. In order to pursue the effect of the movie, he didn't treat the actors as human beings. Some of his actors went crazy after filming. Some went into the water alone in the cold winter and suffered from lifelong diseases. Some were disabled. The window in the ward was opened a crack. The wind howled. Shen Yan looked at the snow-white wall and sighed, will you be happier, Yaoyao? 5. Song's father's revenge came quickly and fiercely. Shen Yan never thought of resisting. The declining market value made employees look worried, and many people secretly prepared to find another way out. Partners called one after another, saying, sorry, Mr. Shen. Shen Yan was calm from beginning to end. He worked hard to climb up just to be able to match that person. Now the person is gone, what's the use of these? After dealing with the termination of the contract, Shen Yan left the company. When walking on the street, the afternoon sun was high. Shen Yan stood on the side of the road, watching a figure across the street enter the small supermarket and come out with a bottle of water. She stood in the sun and looked up at the sun above. She smiled and said something to the person on the other end of the phone. Her eyebrows were curved. Shen Yan stood here and watched. There was a roar in his ears. His heart seemed to be rolled into a ball and then unfolded. He almost used up all his strength to barely stand. Exactly the same facial features, different hairstyle. She was taller and thinner. Her eyebrows and eyes were full, but he knew it at a glance. That was his Yaoyao. 14 days after their wedding, his Yaoyao was back. 6. It was not an illusion, but he could not catch it. Sometimes she appeared in the supermarket, buying some snacks. Sometimes she appeared on the street, holding her friend's hand. Sometimes in a certain community, walking her kitten on a leash. Sometimes, the cat was pure white, with heterochromia, like her, indifferently seducing. Shen Yan did not dare to get too close, so he could only stand aside and stare at her intently. She squinted her eyes and called her cat. Shen Yan couldn't hear her voice, but he could read the cat's name from her lips. Mi, Gao, rice cake. She smiled with her head down, her eyebrows and eyes curved. The sun fell on her shoulders, making her skin white and transparent. Shen Yan looked at her, but his heart was in pain. You can see it, you can't touch it. 7. People in the circle said Shen Yan was crazy. When talking about his name, there seemed to be regret, saying that such a resourceful person has been mysterious since his wife died. He didn't even resist when he was targeted. I thought he would be a new business upstart, But I didn't expect it to be just a flash in the pan. Alas, what a trick of fate. Shen Yan turned a deaf ear and chased Song Yaoyao. Can't get close, just follow all the way, until he disappeared, but it's just a temporary solution. When I was still sane, I knew it was an illusion. Then, she was alive and vivid. When I got closer, I could even see her hair blown by the wind. Was it really an illusion? Or maybe, was it reality? You came to save me, disappeared. So when the car rushed straight towards the figure on the road, Shen Yan had no time to react. His body just moved forward subconsciously, at least this time. He didn't want to see her die in front of him, but it was an illusion. His body was hit hard, his internal organs were twisted together, and his bones were in pain as if they were about to fall apart. There were noisy sounds in his ears, one wave higher than the other. His body gradually lost temperature, but Shen Yan stared at that place stubbornly until she walked farther and farther away, disappeared.